Hello and welcome. It's going to be a great show today. My name is Mark Schultz and welcome to Building Experiences with Mark. That's me. Look, we're going to have a great session, the last session of the year. What a funky year it's been, but these shows aren't as good as they could be without guests. And let's get straight into introducing our special guest for today. Welcome, Zoran, back to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be. It's great to be here. Not just good.
What's this show for?
Very excited. What's this show for? Well, obviously drums.
Yes, clearly. No, I was actually asking, how many shows have you been on? Is it the fourth time?
All right. Yeah, I think it's fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we might have to change the title to Building with Mark and Zoran, because it's certainly been that way. But, mate, always good to have you to join us. And if you're just watching and you want to see more of Zoran, of course, hit subscribe or go and watch the old recordings. They're definitely worthwhile. We've got quite a bit to talk about, right? We've been talking and playing around with Cloud Manager, something that's been out for some time. But let's get straight into our feature topic for today. All right. So, Zoran, what's your thought around Cloud Manager? What is Cloud Manager? Maybe let's start there.
What is Cloud Manager? Well, that's an excellent question, Mike. Thank you for asking. Cloud Manager is a tool that we launched. What's it now? It's been more than a year for sure.
It's at least 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at least 2 years. But it's a tool that allows you to manage your AEM environments and perform deployments to, especially for AEM cloud service, which as everyone should know on the show is the latest and greatest in AEM. So it allows you to build and deploy pipelines straight into AEM.
Yeah, so we might take a look at it, and just to give everyone watching a heads up of what we're going to cover today. So we've got quite a few things. So I'm going to give everyone a very quick intro of what Cloud Manager is, just a couple minutes, and then want to get into integrating, Git workflows with Git Actions and GitHub. Zoran's going to take us through. You've got quite a menagerie of things all in one demo, right? It's a bit of Slack notifications, a bit of deployments and automation with Jenkins.
Pulled out all the stops.
Yeah, so that should be pretty cool. I'm going to show you some of the new enhancements to Cloud Manager if you're already using it, things that have just gone live in the product. And then a little IoT hack project is something that might inspire you to do something crazy with lights. So we'll save that to the end. But let's get straight into it. So, Cloud Manager, should we get into a demo and have a look?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I'm here in my browser. I'm logged into Experience Cloud, and you'll notice that there's an Experience Manager logo right in the center. And that allows me to get straight into Cloud Manager. So pretty easy to find, of course, assuming that you have permission to access. But let me just get rid of this little logo, little floating thing here. So it's loading, and what it gives me straight away is 3 programs. Now, these are not 3 servers. These are 3, petitions of a whole bunch of things. If I go into one of these, you'll see that I have my environments. So I can have dev and stage and prod environments there, multiple dev environments. And I can go in and quickly go and add an environment just by a click of a button. And I can also have pipelines, and this is where we do code deployment and much, much more. We take the code, we run through your build process, we do code analysis. We make sure that everything is, really meeting the, best practices as far as performance, security, etc. And then, actually building up a new environment, standing it up, and then doing a swap over once all those tests are passed. So it takes a lot of stuff that is extremely hard and time-consuming to set up and deploy manually, and just really automate that. So Zoran, I know, like in the past, you've done quite a lot of work with, CI/CD processes and just
Yeah.
deployments in general. What's your thoughts on Cloud Manager and how it speeds things up?
Yeah, look, I certainly have come to appreciate Cloud Manager in the past few months when since I've worked with it quite intensely, and what I really like about it is the robust set of or the robust toolkit that it provides. All right, so it's like you mentioned, it's not just it's not simple to create a tool like that. Otherwise it would be a dime and a dozen. And what I really like about it is that it puts everything in one place, and so you're able to see to clearly see your environments. And again, to Mike's point, I just wanted to reiterate, like, those environments there are not just individual servers. They're because it's cloud service, they're Docker containers and all sorts of other utilities set up around that. But it allows you to see your environment. It allows you to create new ones very quickly. It allows you to basically perform that final last mile of getting your work onto an AEM environment. And the thing that I absolutely love about it is the fact that everything is API driven. So the entire tool that you just saw is built API first. So everything every button that it's available on the tool is generally powered by an API that you can access,
Yeah,
which is
absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, and if I just show a diagram here for a moment, press the right button. Um, and this is kind of what it looks like, right? You have a repository of code. You can, of course, have additional repositories with, one or more projects. Bring that into the Cloud Manager repository, and then run the pipelines, which then goes and deploys that out into both your dev environments and your stage and prod as it works through. So, I mean, one of the questions that I get asked all the time is like, well, do I just have to use the Adobe repository, or can I store my own code where I always store it? And Zoran, we were talking about this before. This is not a complete replacement to your CI/CD process. It's just like an extension at the end, right?
Totally, yeah. We're not trying to own the whole end-to-end pipeline. We're just trying to make sure that what gets delivered into AEM is sound and
Yeah,
can work and will work.
yeah, absolutely. So I thought we might show our first tips and tricks as far as how to get code from your own repository into the AEM Cloud Manager repo that's supplied. And I'm going to flick back to my screen for a moment here, and if I look at the pipelines here, down the bottom here is a managed Git, and this is where you can typically see your credentials. You can generate a password. You can get access to everything. But of course, you can within. If I hop over to GitHub here, here's a demo project that I was just building to play around with, and use of GitHub Actions has made things extremely easy. So I don't even think about the Cloud Manager repository anymore. I just check in and check out from my projects. And what's happening behind the scenes is every time I do a commit and I push it to GitHub, the action's running. It's in the background copying that across into the Cloud Manager repo. And then you can set triggers on the pipelines to automatically go and do something based on that. So, I make a change to the code, I check it in, and I want to make sure that code quality is fine. So, Zoran, let's live a little bit on the edge here. I'm going to make a change to the README, just for the hell of it. And I love the fact you can do this just on GitHub now. So we will save the monotony of too many things. But let's just go right down the bottom here and just say, this is awesome.
Usually README changes are critical changes.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's hit commit. And all right, so that is done now. What we should see in our actions is there's a GitHub action that's kicking off. and it's syncing with Cloud Manager. That is, you know, less than 30 seconds worth of effort there. If I come back to my main screen, I've put a little badge here so I can make sure that syncing has completed. And then if I hop over into my live environment here, what we will see in just a second is the code quality check will just automatically run. And the reason that is, if I go into the edit screen, you'll see here that I'm looking for the master branch, and I'm kicking this off based on Git changes. So anything that gets checked into master and it sees a change will automatically fire off this code quality pipeline. And if I go back, you can actually see it's actually running now, right? I didn't press the buttons. The magic just happened. So it just means you can get into this habit of building locally, committing your changes, doing everything as far as your local testing. And if you're of course working by yourself, well, then it's very easy for you to go and manage the code. But Zoran, we were talking about more complex environments where you might be running full CI/CD process in house. You might be using Jenkins already. So
Yeah,
you've put a few things together. So do you want to set up what we're about to show?
yeah. I mean, what Mark showed is awesome and makes for a very quick feedback loop. If you're developing, you just want to sanity check. But obviously, in bigger organizations, and especially organizations that have done this or worked with AEM for a while, there's already an existing process that's set up in place. And like Mark mentioned, Jenkins. I mean, most of the places that I've worked with or at have used Jenkins to achieve this. And so the ability to still plug Cloud Manager into that process is key, because it means that you don't need to overhaul or rethink how you're doing things now that you have this new tool in place. And so that's why I mentioned before the API of Cloud Manager, because we're gonna show in a minute that by using that API and some of the tools that Adobe ships that are public and open source, you can actually tie Cloud Manager very easily with Jenkins and the rest of your ecosystem. So Slack for notifications, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall we press record? We pre-recorded a demo to make sure it ran end to end, and let's hit play on that.
Awesome.
Find my cursor and press the right button. Here we go.
Hi. Today we're going to talk about how to integrate Cloud Manager with existing CI/CD systems in your organization, as well as other tools that your organization uses, such as, for instance, Slack for notifications. But before we do that, I just wanted to quickly run you through a bit of an illustration as to how this whole process works, so that you have a bit more context about what we're gonna see. All right, let's get into it. So a typical life cycle of a code change looks something like this. A developer works on a feature branch. They do work. They check in often and run tests locally. Once everything's done and everything passes their own local inspection, they then decide to go and push that change into your internal repository. Now, several things happen here. So once that change is pushed, GitHub will inform your internal CI/CD system, such as Jenkins, for instance, that there is a new change, and Jenkins will trigger a build that's gonna check in that feature branch and then run through its process. Once that's done, and it's successful, in a very mature organization, if there's a robust testing framework, then you can immediately go and merge that change into your main branch. Now, that will signal that there's a need to sync that code change from your main branch into your Cloud Manager repository. Now, don't forget, Cloud Manager itself comes with its own Git repository. So all the Cloud Manager builds and all the Cloud Manager pipelines run off a Cloud Manager Git repo. So you will need to sync your internal code changes into the Cloud Manager Git repo. And the way that we're going to do that is through GitHub Actions. That's one way. There's many other ways. We're just using that for illustration. Now, once that's done, then GitHub will again inform Jenkins that the synchronization process has occurred. And at that point in time, Jenkins will trigger a pipeline on its own that will communicate to Cloud Manager and actually orchestrate the deployment. Now, how Jenkins is going to do that is via a tool that Adobe provides called AIO command line interface. Now, it is essential that this tool is properly installed and configured on the Jenkins environment. And for you to understand how to do that, Mark ran an episode about a couple of months ago on his live stream that specifically covered Adobe I/O and how to configure and set all these tools up. So make sure to go and check that out when you can, to understand how this configuration works. But as I said, Jenkins will use the AIO command line interface tool to initiate a Cloud Manager build. And as Cloud Manager triggers that deployment process, it will generate what we call a pipeline start event. And that event is going to be picked up and used to generate a notification in Slack. Now, this is important because it will allow you this system to notify people that are involved, especially developers or operations people, and notify them about things that are going on. This is incredibly useful because it means that as a developer, I don't have to go and log into all these systems independently to make sure that I can track how my changes are progressing, because I can use things like Slack and I can use things like GitHub to keep me informed at all times. Now, once the Cloud Manager deployment is finished and successfully and the changes have successfully been deployed into AEM, Cloud Manager generates another event called Pipeline End Event. Now, these are not the only events that Cloud Manager can generate. There are quite a few, and so you can actually orchestrate a lot of notifications to a lot of systems based on these events. So make sure to check them out in the documentation. But with the Pipeline End Event, what we're going to do is we're going to inform Jenkins, who's been patiently waiting for Cloud Manager to finish its job, that Cloud Manager has successfully deployed the changes into AEM. Now, what that means is that at this point in time, Jenkins can now continue with the orchestration process, and it can continue run automation tests and visual inspection tests and many other things that will be part of that broader pipeline. And this is important because a lot of customers would already have a lot of these pieces of this process in place, and the only thing that really changes is the cloud is introducing Cloud Manager into the mix. So it's important to understand how your process doesn't need to change while you still manage to get all the benefits from Cloud Manager. And so now that we've gone through that, let's actually look at how this is done in practice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my Visual Studio Code, and I have already checked in my project, and I'm on my feature branch. I've made my changes as instructed and required. I've gone through my internal checks and made sure that everything works. So now I'm ready to check this in. So I'm going to commit my changes and say changes to the image list component. All right, that's now checked in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to push those changes to GitHub. And once that is complete, I'm going to go into Jenkins, and I can immediately see that Jenkins has been notified by GitHub that a feature branch has been altered, and it can go and proceed with the feature branch build and test. And so that is going to check the code in. It is going to then let me just go into the console output. It is going to run the build over the code. fire off an analysis request to Sonar, and then once everything is successful, it will merge those changes into the main branch of my project. Okay, and now we can see that the build has successfully completed. Everything checks out, everything's okay, and therefore we're going to proceed and push those changes into the main GitHub branch. Now, as soon as I do that, what's going to happen is my GitHub action is going to trigger, and it's going to sync those changes into my master, into my Cloud Manager Git repo, and it's going to also notify Jenkins that that's been done, so that it can go on and proceed with the rest of the workflow. So if I go back to Jenkins, I can see that my Cloud Manager deploy pipeline has been triggered, and if I go into the console output, I can see that Jenkins has issued my AIO command line to Cloud Manager to say start the execution, and is now waiting to hear back. But not only that, if I go to my Slack application, I can see that I've received a notification that tells me that my pipeline has already been kicked off. So I don't need to go to Cloud Manager to check this, but just to show you, I'll just quickly jump there, and you can see that Cloud Manager is also telling me that a pipeline is running, and I can see that which pipeline is currently running. And if I go into the details of that pipeline, I can see which stage I am at. Excellent. So we can see now that Cloud Manager has finished its deployment pipeline, and if we go back to Jenkins, we can also see that Jenkins has received the notification back that Cloud Manager has finished. It has checked and to make sure that the actual Cloud Manager pipeline is successful, and therefore completed its run. So there you go. We just demonstrated how we can go from a developer checking in their code, triggering an internal process to make sure that code is correct and valid, then triggering an automated orchestrating between Jenkins and Cloud Manager to get that code deployed and delivered into AEM, all the while making sure that all the systems are talking to each other, and also that notifications can flow to places that such as Slack will be where people get their information from. Now, while this all looks incredibly simple, there's a lot of work that goes into building out these complex pipelines, and that's not just because Cloud Manager is in the mix. Building out a robust automated pipeline in Jenkins in itself is an activity that does require some effort. But hopefully this demonstrates how Cloud Manager can not only fit into that world, but also add a lot of benefits to it. And I just showed you an example with one Cloud Manager pipeline, but and against the development environment. But if you think about it, that same process can be easily replicated so that we can start with a development environment, then either via automated or manual means that we can signal Jenkins that everything checks out, and then you can proceed to actually package up and through Cloud Manager deploy into your production environment. And so you can really get an end-to-end truly continuous deployment process like this, and still have everything orchestrated and in sync. So I really hope that you enjoyed the presentation today. If you have any questions, I will see you momentarily in the live stream. Thanks.
And here's Zoran momentarily later in the live stream. Mate, that was good.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
to,
And,
just
and again, the reason we pre-recorded it is because these processes don't take 5 to 10 minutes. You know,
yeah.
moving between different environments. And if you're watching the clock, um, you saw that there was no fakery in there, and we were just skipping ahead. But mate, thank you for that. Since recording, any other thoughts or words of wisdom to share?
Um, look, I'm kind of I think this whole experience of setting this all up and recording it brought back the whole appreciation of how much effort goes into setting these processes up, and it's definitely a hugely important thing for any organization to spend the time to do it right. And because when you do it right, that means that like, I show that example very trivially, where you just, I start with pushing code, and then the whole process kind of takes care of it itself. But if you think about it, if your testing harnesses are robust enough, if your code inspection is strong enough, and you have all the rules in place to actually make the process do its thing, there's nothing stopping you from actually automating this end to end. I know there's always going to be kind of the won't it concern, that something might go wrong. But if you trust the system, and if there's more than enough places in the pipeline to actually have a human interaction, absolutely, I think you can totally achieve an end-to-end process that's relatively fast. I mean, obviously, when you're talking about deploying to several environments, it's not a simple thing,
Yeah.
but reasonably fast. Absolutely.
I think the investment in time to automate definitely pays itself off, right? I mean, even like my personally, like just setting up some GitHub Actions and doing some small things for the small type of things I work on is worth the effort. So you times that by a team of 5 to 10 people or more, definitely worth it. So you're going to share some links of where people can read more, both Adobe links and external from the community, which is great. So mate, thank you for that. Let's keep going.
So
Now everything we've shown you is for Cloud Manager, which is available both on Cloud Service and Managed Services. What I want to do now is show a feature that is just come out new as part of a new enhancement for Cloud Service customers, in the spirit of allowing more self-service. And if we go to my desktop here, and a caveat is I'm showing a kind of fake environment to simulate this because I don't want to mess with a production instance. But again, you can see here I have production stage and development in Cloud Manager. But one of the new enhancements that's been released is support for self-service management of domain names, of certificates, and of allow lists. And all these enhancements are sitting under the environments tab here. So you can very quickly go in and say, okay, for my production environment now, what domain names, what allow lists, etc., are applied. And these are very simple to go and put in. So you can see here, add SSL, go in, paste my certificate details in here, and I'm pretty much done. I'm not going to do that in front of you. Domain names, pretty much the same thing. Add a domain, go and put the domain in. So let me just put in, weekend.com as an example. I choose my production environment. I choose the SSL certificate, and then I do the typical post to the DNS record to validate. And then once that validation is been confirmed, then we match the domain name to that environment. So very easy to do self-serve. And same with allow lists. You can just go in here. You might want to say, okay, we've got so many people working remote right now. I want to be able to manage that without raising tickets and waiting for things to be done as people move around or are on, dynamic IPs, etc. You can come in here now and say, remote workers, put in the IP addresses in here, and then it's just apply that. So lots of really nice enhancements that are in production now, went live with the recent Cloud Manager release. And I'll put a link to this in the show notes, where you can actually read through the documentation. It's all posted, and definitely worth checking out. So, Zoran, I think this is going to save quite a bit of time, and just the fact that you can just go and get it done. You don't have to wait for someone else to do it on your behalf.
Oh, totally. I mean, it's been one of those features that customers have requested time and time again. So I'm very excited to see it in the product.
Yeah, exciting. All right, we're down to our last tips and tricks. I think it deserves an animation. All right, I can't help myself sometimes. I just get playing around with hardware, and of course, IoT has been, fashionable for the last few years now. So, Zoran, what I've built and what I want to share with you, let's just bring a couple of additional cameras up here. There we go. Here's the live view, and I don't know why my camera's not coming up. Let's try that as well. Now we're all going all funky with picture in picture. That looks better. All right.
There you go.
So this is actually a live. I'll put my hand in there so you can see it's actually live. This is my visual display of my sandbox environments. And if you're not sure what the sandbox environment is, with AEM Cloud Service, you can have sandboxes that are non-production, but they're fully functioning. So you can go and spin up a dev environment. You can go and have author and publish and dispatcher and everything all set up for you. But one of the things we do just to make it more economical is power it down after 8 hours. So there are times day to day when I'm not sure which environment is live and which is not. So I wanted to make sure that is accessible. So just wanted to share some of the details behind this in case you want to build your own. And Zoran, you and I were talking, like I'm showing the status of an environment, but you could absolutely use the same APIs for to check pipeline and see things we're at. So, if you're being bombarded with Slack messages every day, maybe you just want a traffic light environment, to try and share some of that information.
Yeah, I think build teams, development teams everywhere will be leaning into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way it works right now, and I'm going to just switch between different screens, but if I just hop over to here, we're using the same APIs that Zoran was showing. So pulling from Cloud Manager. Now I've built a runtime action, and that's basically just JavaScript running in the cloud. What it's doing is it's essentially calling the appropriate APIs to get the environments, get the status of them, and just give me a clean output. I'm not a Python developer, and so I wanted to keep that minimal and play in a safe environment, which I knew. So the client code running on the actual device is just a Python call. So what that looks like is, first of all, running on a Raspberry Pi, super cheap, $10, $20, depending on your country and your current exchange rate. But grabbing one of those, what I was using is this hat for the Raspberry Pi. So you basically slide it straight on, add a Python library, and you can access these lights by a matrix. So pretty easy to go and access. And then we've mentioned this a few times. Once I've got the hardware sorted, then I'm using the Adobe I/O environment to first check the right calls. And if you haven't seen this before, you can do something like this where you can go ahead and list the environments and do everything else. I'm doing the same thing, but via the actual API. So within the I/O console, I've actually connected to Cloud Manager. I've connected to I've uploaded my my script for runtime to actually make those API calls, and then they're giving me back a very clean output. And I'll share these links as well. Like, this is very simple Python. I'm not a Python developer, so don't beat me up about my coding. But in this case, I've just hardwired a few of the environment names and just said, okay, if they're hibernated, show this color. If they're running, show this color, and so on. So pretty easy to go and spit that out and work on it. So I just wanted to share that, in case it's of interest to people and you want to build your own and get started. I'll put all the details up on the show notes.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah. So, mate, looking at time. Can you believe it's almost time already? It's that time of
I
year.
know.
It's December. This is the last show of
I
the
know.
year. So,
It's crazy.
look, wrapping up the Cloud Manager piece, I mean, there's lots of things you can do there. I think it's worth the effort to understand the APIs. Don't just use it as something to press once, add environment, and then deploy code through. Really get to understand the ways you can tap into, the various things to automate, to get notifications, to build funky lights for your desktop, etc. And kind of own that process. But Zoran, mate, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. We'll keep going next year. We'll make some refinements based on comments. If you're watching this for the first time, couple of tips: hit subscribe and make sure you get notified when we start this up in the new year. There's a lot of great content that we've recorded throughout the year. Definitely worth watching. Zoran shared, a whole bunch of things around, calling out some of the APIs within Experience Manager and querying. We've got a lot of enhancements coming out in Cloud Manager that we're going to cover next year. So watch the recordings, have a look at that. Hit me up with ideas and suggestions if there's a particular topic that you'd like to see, and we'll come back with more. So, mate, Zoran, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. And look, before we go, I just wanted to say thank you for running this. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest. And for everyone that's watching live or watching the recordings, hope you guys enjoyed everything. And yeah, if you got ideas, please share them.
Yeah,
always happy to learn more from our customers and partners.
absolutely. So, look, we'll sign off with that. For everyone celebrating over the holidays, have a great time, have a safe time, and let's get into the new year. Hopefully, it's a lot more fun and we can forget about some of this nonsense. But until then, safe holidays and see you all next time. Bye.